I think they're figuring it out.
Okay, we are on the air and it is 4 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get started with the Community Planning and Transportation Committee meeting for Thursday, February 22nd, 2024. Thank you all for being here and everybody watching at home. We have 3 items on the agenda, and the first one, as usual, is our discussion with city staff about public transit. And once again, if this is a topic that is of interest to you, or if you are a rider of the public transit system, or you're just curious about it, this is where we talk about it every month and get an update from city staff on ridership numbers, budgets, plans, improvements, things like that. But we also take feedback, and if you have questions or concerns about the system, recommendations, please pass those forward to any of us on council, and we'll make sure we talk about those in this committee. So we'll go ahead and get started with item number 1, which is the public transit report. And Taylor's here with us, as usual.
Thank you, Council Member, Chair. Good to be with you today. We have received all 5 of our Ford Transit vehicles to replace some units in our paratransit fleet. Unfortunately, we had to send some back, but we're working on getting those equipped and put into the fleet as soon as we can. On the changeover with the new routes, I know we're a few months out, but that seems to be going still pretty well. I don't know that I'm hearing many complaints or any now. I know we had some at the beginning that we're still working on, maybe trying to resolve some areas, but left the service expansion priorities from the Go Norman Transit Plan in your memo, just to kind of put that in perspective now that we've gotten over the big hump of the route changes, where we're kind of eyeing or at least recommending we consider for future service with Sunday service, which is kind of or is accomplished with the on-demand microtransit pilot program, which we'll be talking more in depth about next Tuesday. So we don't need to get into many details on that if you guys don't want to. And then the second and third priority is really increased frequency on our 2 remaining hour-long routes, which I know we talked about last time. The Route 112 has really seen a huge increase in the ridership going from the previous West Lindsay. And the other one, Route 110, has gone down, but we know that a lot of that route up in the North Park area will be developed in the future at some scale, and we know that more demand will be there. So but it's still a pretty good route, goes up to the Healthplex from downtown, and we know there's a lot of destinations in there. So we did see that, well, we should hear next Thursday for sure, but it's been recommended that some of our grant projects for our public fleet conversion grant the city submitted may be awarded next Thursday. We still have to go through a committee, ACOG. But we did submit for pantograph chargers for our electric buses. So those are the overhead chargers that come down and touch the charge rails on top that the buses are outfitted with to keep them charged in service. So I'm a little anxious about what that looks like engineering wise of getting it, installed and everything, but it would be pretty amazing to have that up and running. We can leave those buses out all day. So
where will those be installed at?
Well, I think the only place we can put them is on the 2 bays that are outside the awning at the transit
so
center.
they will be actually at the transit center.
They need to be out in the, they could be at a bus stop. Other communities have done that where they charge them at a high traffic bus stop or one that they have room, but it just makes sense to try to put them at the transit center if we can.
I'm thinking of the Oklahoma City streetcar where they've got them all over the place. It sounds like we don't need that.
Well, and that's
the
line, right? Yeah. So these will be stationary. When they park, they'll charge for 5 or 10 minutes, very high intensity charge, and then they'll go again. Right?
Perfect.
So, and then just a blurb about the microtransit pilot program to keep that all on everybody's radar. But again, we'll talk about that in more depth next Tuesday at your study session. And then for the numbers, we did have an increase again on this month, and I hope I can keep telling you that. I keep waiting on the month I can't. I know it'll come sooner than later probably, but it's pretty good ridership. Again, 1,165 is the average total daily ridership, and that includes Saturday, so it's a little bit higher on the weekdays, which you can see further in the report. But a very healthy, I think, route system we have right now, considering we just changed the routes dramatically, 3 or 4 months ago. So
total ridership for January this year compared to last year is up 6.88%.
Right, or about 3,000.
And then for the fiscal year to date, so July 1st to now, right? It's, the system is up 31.49%
Right.
compared to the year before.
Right, and I did this math in my head earlier, it's about 56,000, I think, the difference in the passengers.
Yeah, I think that's pretty impressive. I agree. That fixed route, you had, let's see,
And the majority of the
25,000
increases-
last year and 28,
route.
over 28 this year.
Yeah,
in
so
January.
the increase is really on fixed route. You can see at the bottom paragraph of the first page that the plus ridership actually decreased by 17,
Yeah,
which again, it's on demand. If you don't take as many grocery trips this month as you did a year ago, right? It's just kind of ebbs and flows. People may move and they don't need the service anymore. But it's still relatively the same.
it does say that passengers with wheelchairs or other mobility devices increased 15.64% though.
Yeah. And that Marilyn may be able to speak more to this of why our wheelchair rides may have increased, but we may have onboarded a client or a passenger that needed the service that uses a mobility device. We may have done 2 or 3 of those that really impacts the numbers. Or they may have just,
We have a lot of people that are what we call semi-ambulatory, 90% of the time they just utilize a walker.
Right.
But they may be having a bad day, may have recently
Right.
had some medical treatment that they will ask for the lift.
I was gonna say, then they may transition to a scooter or a wheelchair too, if they needed to, right? So,
Is there any data or feedback on, so now we're comparing to what I would think of as real numbers. We're out of the 2020 and
COVID.
21. We're past the point where we took it over from OU.
right,
So now we're really able to compare to, I would consider more normal or whatever.
right.
Why, there's more riders, we're 31% increase in overall. What are those new riders? Where are they coming from? Why are they riding the bus now? Any feedback on that?
That's a good question. I think we are serving destinations better with the route changes, with the bidirectional routes going to and from destinations a lot quicker. The Lindsay East bus going to all the way to Homeland and then, connecting with downtown and the university, I think that really increased the opportunities for people to ride the bus because they can either go toward the university and students can go to the university and get on for class, or they can go the opposite way and go to Homeland and Walmart. It goes all the way up to Walmart, right? So I think that increase you're seeing there is that because of that extension, even though we went from a 30-minute route to an hour-long route, the offerings of the destinations and keeping 2 buses on it
So
have kept it
possibly
pretty-
a lot of new riders, but also existing riders maybe
maybe
riding
more
it more
trips.
now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you can go more places in the same amount of time because the routes are a little bit, or the distance is a little bit quicker, A to B.
Okay.
Not scientific, but
Sure.
I think that's what's happening.
Okay.
So hopefully we have a really good conversation on Tuesday about microtransit. And I'm happy to talk about those numbers real quick. I know that's
Yeah.
the last report here, but we did see about 2,500 riders on the Norman On Demand system in January. In total, we've had 13.2 thousand since we launched in August. So still
January saw a decrease compared to December though.
right. And they, that's to be expected. Weather days, it gets colder. For the fixed route bus system, we usually saw a dip in ridership during the winter months, January, February, and then it'd peak back up in the spring. So that's to be expected, people not wanting to get out as much.
Okay. Any questions, comments?
Encouraged by the results.
Yeah. Yeah. Public transit continues to be, someone was commenting about how hard it is to get around Norman sometimes driving and stoplights and stuff, and how we need to do more work on public transit. And I mentioned that, well, we're one of the only cities in the country that offers free public transit, free fare. And we just rolled out the new routes, and it's going, change is tough for sure, but our route system is reaching further than it ever has before. Going almost to 24th and Lindsay, which it did not even get close. It sort of got close, but not. And then, So it's reaching more areas, it's running more frequently. We're offering the late night service with on-demand, we're doing Sunday service, so, I think we're trying to help people give you options.
And the statistical information that we are able to gather, I mean, a lot of customer survey efforts, I just thought, could we employ Sarah Kaplan's software? Is there anything that we could discern by, like, cell phone data? Like, where do these riders come from? Where do they go? How often do the same riders follow the same paths? And I wonder if we could, if we could run reports like that out of that cell phone data, because it's just so generic and doesn't require anybody to respond to a survey. So I'll ask her to see what we might be able to gather.
And Embark usually, I think it's an annual survey, right, Marilyn? But I think we skipped last year for some reason. So we usually do a market customer satisfaction survey every year, or Embark does, and so I hope we have that this year, and that'll be able to tell us a little bit more information. They ask, how do you pay, which of course doesn't apply here, but just, are you a student or not, the basic questions, and then some more open-ended ones. So hopefully we can come back. I think we did that the first couple of years. We came back to council and let the vendor say, what the results were. So that was pretty telling. And I remember us being very highly satisfied by the customer. So hopefully that continues to be the case.
I would think with the way the fleet's being updated and renovated, that's gotta hopefully result in increased rider satisfaction, just being on a nice new clean,
Councilmember Schuler?
quiet bus.
Yeah, just a comment. So last month we had the update about the 5310 program that you are working on. So I had someone reach out and say that Transition House, one of the nonprofits here, has a vehicle that might be one to identify as you expand that program into Norman.
Tell me the name of that.
Transition House. So they have a vehicle that they use, and they're saying the person told me that it's getting expensive for their budget, just for like maintenance and gas and all that kind of stuff. So like
Nonprofits struggle with that.
being able to be in that program would be off. Yeah. So I wanted to let you know that I did hear back. Yeah.
Yeah, they're a well-established nonprofit here in Norman.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would encourage any of you that have other agencies like that. We're talking actually full circle of agent services in Cleveland County, but there's other agencies here. It's mobility management at OKC.gov. Just tell them to drop us an email. We'll add them to the thing and start inviting them to the coordination meetings.
Awesome. Thank you.
We had some comments from the public last time about the transit center and security and stuff like that. Any updates or anything of note over the last month? I've noticed when I work across the street, but I drive by multiple times a day, it feels like. I've noticed guys with the reflective vests walking around more often perhaps. And
Those are our Embark supervisor that Lamar manages for us. So they do have a presence there. We still don't have a security full-time or anything. I have asked Embark to look at what that cost would be under their current contract in Oklahoma City. And I think they actually sent it to me today. I haven't had a chance to look at it, so I don't want to comment on it. But we are getting some numbers if that's something council wants us to pursue, looking at a full-time security.
But that would mean
staffer.
policies and procedures are already in place and effect in Oklahoma City, so
Yeah.
much
and
easier to bring a
similar to the
program
bus
online where you
drivers.
can plagiarize all the good stuff.
Well, we just want to make sure that everybody, we spent a lot of effort, staff time, money to get this in Norman, and we want to make sure everybody riding it feels safe doing so.
Sure.
And that the staff feels safe, and that it's being taken care of, the way we expect. So, yeah, please keep us updated on that as we move.
And incidents don't always make it to us, so if you hear of any incidences or complaints, please share those with us, because sometimes they don't come to us first, they reach out to you all, so we
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Okay. Any other transit-related comments? Okay. I would, I think I mentioned before, one of the stops I would like to see Ben Shore Shelter is that new one in front of Faculty Heights Park.
Okay.
It's on the north side of Lindsay
Right.
Street. I see multiple people standing there every day, it feels like now, and so.
If you would have drove by there today, you would have seen a bike with a missing
Yeah, I saw
tire
that too.
chained to it. So we took that off of there, but we
It
could
wasn't
definitely-
missing a tire yesterday. When I
Oh, it
saw
was missing a tire today. So if
But,
you see stuff like that, let us know
I
too.
think, I think maybe some of the Summer Point people, students and whatnot.
Make their
maybe-
way over there.
I think they're using that stop, and so I've just, it's a little pad site, and they're standing all around it. So,
Sure.
and it's a busy street right there too,
It is
so
busy,
Yeah,
it's
and,
not the
and I know the
friendliest.
Reed bus stop there by Food Shelter. That's one we're looking at for a venture shelter too. So
Councilmember Grant? Is
Yeah, I
that-
was kind of curious about what Tyler Media said about our request for some additional bus stops.
and Reed. Well, I think it was just the one there, right? Am I missing it? Any?
I feel like I got another one when I put out like a budget request.
Okay.
I can go back and look those
Okay.
up, but
Well, I'll be honest. We kind of had the holidays there, and then we had a string of glass breaks and stuff. So they focused on those on the shelters. So I'll circle back around with them. I need to pin them down on the Reed one, and I'll add the Faculty Heights one to that list. So.
Any other comments, questions about transit? Okay. Thank you, Taylor.
Let's
Appreciate
move
it.
on. Thanks.
And item number 2 on the agenda is a discussion regarding parking space maximums, parking lot design, and landscaping requirements. Part of the origin of this one is we have talked a lot about parking minimums and not having those anymore, and parking in general. So when I was on vacation in California last summer, my dad and I drove up to Hanford, California, Daryl's previous city, and also home of Steve Perry of Journey. Interesting town.
Yep.
And in the central part of basically the middle of California, in the valley there. So couldn't find a public restroom and ended up going to a Walmart Supercenter. And I had never seen a big box store parking lot so nicely and well landscaped. And I text Daryl and was like, how did this happen? What seemed like an odd place. So in the San Joaquin Valley of California, it can be very hot, especially in the summer.
Yeah.
And so you think of a massive concrete parking lot or asphalt. And so this one was set up in a way, it was the nicest one I think I'd ever seen. So, and it's kind of done in a way where people could walk through it without just being exposed to the heat. So I asked Daryl to get their ordinance and see if we could talk about it in Norman. And so we've got some staff here to talk about that and some other ideas that we
Love
can
it.
throw around. So thank you.
All right, so Jane had to be out today, so you get me, Laura Hoggett. So, I'm kind of guessing at what we're talking about, sorry. But, so we have Hanford's landscaping ordinance here, for their O and OR zone districts and commercial mixed-use industrial districts. They require not less than 5% of the interior square footage of a parking area be landscaped. And then 1 tree for every 4 lineal parking spaces. And then they have to be spread throughout. And then the 10-foot landscape buffer.
And Councilmember Holman sent me a picture from that parking lot, and the trees had grown pretty dramatically since the last time I'd seen it, and I thought, oh my gosh, it turned out the way they hoped it would turn out. It was
Yeah.
just the whole parking lot
Canopy.
in a canopy. When you go 28 days in a row above 107 degrees, nobody's shopping between 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. There's nobody willing to park their car in the middle of a big box
Yeah.
Wow.
shopping center, and it was, that's what everybody hoped for, and it took a while before the trees got there, but they got there.
Yeah. So it was very nice. It stood out right when we pulled up.
So I have something in my eye. So then we just copied our landscaping ordinances to the next 3 slides. I won't read them word for word because that'd be a lot. But there's not a lot different between the 2 requirements. It's just that ours is much wordier than theirs is. So for street landscaping, we require 1 tree for every 20 feet, but No, for every 40 feet. But if you don't want to do like a berm, you can do every 20 feet. So it is a little different, I guess. But parking spaces are about 8.5 feet, 9 feet wide. So they have a tree every, what is that, 32, 36 feet. And we have one every 40 or 20. So there's really not a huge difference on the street. I think the interior might be a little bit different. It's really wordy, so it's kind of hard to explain without pictures. But I guess we did update our parking ordinance where we have recommended minimums instead of required minimums. And we had talked about implementing maximums, but that would require a study, and I think we're just kind of waiting for direction on that one. And then we weren't sure what you exactly wanted to discuss for parking lot design requirements.
So were you saying that ours does not require the interior of a parking lot to have it? It's just the
We
exterior?
do. You have to have a. Let's see. Sorry, I know I should have this memorized, but I don't. So this last sentence: no parking space shall be located more than 85 feet from a portion of landscape open space. So we do require kind of like the islands for landscaping, and those have to have one or two trees. Sorry, you kind of got the B team with this one, but we do have interior landscaping to answer the question.
And Laura, do we, when, and I'll look at Beth and Kev, do we remember when the last time was that was updated? Because what may be interesting for us is the parking lots we're used to seeing where it doesn't look like there's many trees at all, may have all been built long before, the updates for the current verbiage. And without, them coming in and needing permits, there isn't any way to require more trees going on in the existing stuff.
So the last time it was updated, just the ordinance as a whole, was in 2017. It doesn't say exactly what it was, but I could find it. If you want.
So, okay, the one in Hanford, they've got a square tree planting every 4, but it's on it's hard.
Front bumper to front bumper tree in the middle.
It's hard to show. That's what it looks like.
Oh, it's like a diamond and the.
So it doesn't take up the
Interesting.
whole. It doesn't take up spots. You still have the spots.
Yeah, you don't lose a parking space in any of it.
Yeah.
And this is 4 years ago, so now those trees are big enough and they cover. If you look at the overhead shot of it, it looks like that.
Oh, yeah.
So the whole parking lot is,
A tree canopy.
yeah.
Oh, it took a nap.
Oh. So, so ours isn't quite that. Councilmember Pico, yeah.
No, to that point, I think I would really like to embrace the one tree every 4 spaces and not tie it to a lineal feet or, just black and white, every 4 spots. And I love that diamond shaped design, which, doesn't take away spots. It actually puts the tree where the shade is needed, not in a spot where there's no cars parked. And I think, to Daryl's point, city manager's point, I would be interested in an incentive program that actually went back and allowed businesses to retrofit their parking lots, to put tree islands in there. I mean, I know you say, I agree, there's gonna be a hurdle that no business is gonna go sink money into their parking lot unless we incentivize them. And so if this is something that we wanna see citywide, we're gonna have to figure out a way to help move it along.
And to that point, when I look back here and see a guy like James Briggs, who knows a little something about trees and landscape architecture, that ability to even provide recommended trees most likely to succeed in these kinds of environments, I think we could probably provide a lot of data to those shopping center owners to say, every once in a while, we do have access to a whole bunch of trees that just kind of show up magically too.
That's what I was just about to say. Even if our part of the program was just buying the tree and bringing it to them, telling them what tree to put in, and they constructed the island, I don't know, maybe there's something there.
I would think if these trees can survive in well, it's one of the most fertile areas in the whole world, actually, but.
But yeah, Hunter and
in the
Pistol
San
is
Joaquin
surrounded by
Valley.
asphalt, and they survive.
Yeah.
What
Councilmember-
requirements they have for irrigating these streets?
Yeah, they're all irrigated, it's all,
That's the thing that retrofitting is hard to do
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
If it's soft here.
yeah, but that parking lot did not look like that 15 years ago. It was just a sea of asphalt.
Yeah.
So they went in
That would
and,
be the irrigation.
Makes sense.
Councilmember Grant?
Yeah, I was kind of wondering about that because wouldn't all that soil be compact when the original parking lot was like put in and how? Yeah, just
yeah, I don't know if
wondering
they
how
went in there with a big
grows.
auger and just
Right.
dug the hole, wall to wall on the
But I
concrete curb.
too am supportive of the one tree every 4 spaces. The diamond design makes a lot of sense. I don't know. Is there something where we could like projects that are coming forward now and working with people on the design of their parking lots? Can we say we have trees if you decide to design your parking lots like this?
I think we could do a pretty darn quick homework assignment and figure out what may be in the pipeline that would fall into this category. And Michelle may have some ideas for us.
It wasn't about trees, I'm sorry. It kind of is, but the reason I was gonna even say anything is because this could also be a great way for you to implement some water quality features in terms of sinking the islands in the ground and allowing the water from the parking lot to run and actually irrigate your trees.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like stormwater basin in the middle of the parking
And see,
lot.
this,
Yeah.
the key difference is 9 inches of rain a year there.
Right.
40 inches of rain here, that the design could, you could get multiple benefits. Same concept, yeah, different design.
And there are trees that would do well in those situations.
Right. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Well, even you replicate the curb design that we have on James Garner where it's got the little inlets into it so the stormwater is able to pass through the curb into the grass. I think there's something there. I really do.
Yeah, I would like to see us kind of replicate the Hanford policy. And if we're able to pare it down at all, if you have recommendations that could make it more simple, I think we'd be for that too. I know we're much,
Simplify the.
probably about twice or so the size of Hanford, but I think Hanford's about the size of Moore or so.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, please, go ahead.
Right now, the interior requirement is if you have areas more than 30 parking spaces. So would you want to see that in something that just has 8?
Yes.
Because we do get a lot of that too. Or
I personally would, but I'm not going to speak for everybody. I know that's a little bit more of a burden on developers and things, but I think you get a better product in the end, and I think they'll see the benefit. I think it'll be money well spent.
and then
And that would be if you have an interior parking lot, because right now, if it's just a row here and a row here, you would have some landscaping requirements on the front, right?
so then do you want to keep the street requirement or update that to have more or less different?
So the Hanford one is 10 feet between buffer between, so there says parking lots developed next to a street shall provide a landscape buffer between the street and the parking lot of at least 10 feet. What is ours currently?
We have the 10-foot buffer, but we require trees to be planted in that, and it doesn't sound like they have like a. Basically, we require street trees, and it doesn't
But
sound
ours
like
is
they
10
do.
feet too, from the street to the
Yes.
park. Okay, so that's the same. And we require landscaping already, so maybe we don't need to change that, but
I want to keep the street trees.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, yeah, yeah. So probably it sounds like the interior, every 4 spaces being done in that diamond shape where it could have cutouts, inlets for the parking lot to drain into those. That's even better.
Yeah.
Because they don't even have that there. There's just a diamond curb, so.
And then, do you want an updated list of trees that grows better, or how do you? I mean, we have a list right now, but
Yeah, the best ones.
I think
To me,
part-
like
yeah.
the best that will grow whatever's considered the best.
Well, parking lot specific especially.
Yes.
It's probably gonna be a pretty harsh, is it very,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No.
Well, is there a way to not write the specific ones in there and just say like we have a list of preferred? I just thinking about the code, like I don't know that you want to limit yourself to listing them.
So as approved by
Yeah, as identified by
some
staff or
Um,
the
Planning department.
yeah, because because
Councilor-
that could change.
Councilmember Grant?
Yeah, in that thought, thinking about like aesthetically pleasing and hardy trees, maybe a preference could be like the top of the list is like what we'd really like to see, and it can just have the others. Because like gum tree, I'm sure it's a nice tree and all, but I will tell you as a pedestrian, and even bur oak, the large seed pods that fall off these are.
No bradford pears, no cedars.
But
those
like
we do have like a prohibited list.
Yeah.
I might
Check
actually
the
be
bradford
on
pears are on there?
Yeah, please.
These, no, pardon.
The stinky trees.
Do not use.
I don't know if there's like a maple or other showy tree in the fall that does well here. I mean, when I was thinking about aesthetics, I think about seasons and, people go out of their way to do the Talamina Drive to see the changing of colors. So,
Well, and it's something you want to have something that's got deep roots, so you're not, tearing up concrete and pavement everywhere when the roots get big. I mean, it's gotta, live in a,
Urban,
10-foot
concrete
square of
environment.
grass. So hardy, I think you use that word.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I
It'll
would
be a
say.
short list. It's
Yeah.
a terribly harsh environment,
I believe that. Yeah.
very hard to grow in, and there's not many things that anyone in the right mind would recommend you put in a parking lot. So you don't want to
Trees
waste
those up.
Sure.
signs by
That's in front of the Marshall.
Well,
Right.
you kind of get what you
Chinese
get, so whether they're
elms.
showy or not, you want them to live.
Send that to me again,
and-
I'll get it to
and
all of our
be
landscape
thrive
architects,
and
they'll know
green,
what,
'cause
by looking at
The
it.
soil
what it
itself
is.
is kind of a nightmare. You
Right.
get that heat effect, you get people hitting them with cars, depending on how
Reed's Google
goofy
Earth
people
and
can
that,
be.
is that
It's-
where
it's a-
you're- Yep.
It's a harsh environment, so it's a great, do you have any idea,
Great tool.
Councilmember, what they had planted in these
We're sending you the Google Earth.
parking lots?
Yeah,
They look like that.
Chinese, is it a Chinese elm?
Oh, maybe, say that, I'm gonna ask, are they planting eucalyptus everywhere, or what are they planting out there?
Yucca plants?
Yeah, we'll Google Earth it, yeah, but,
Over here.
and water's the one thing they don't have.
Right,
Does it have to be trees? Could it be like a shrub?
I think you want the shade, don't you?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
shade
it's
is the
The
main.
canopy.
It's just like I don't foresee it getting. I foresee it continuing to get hot or here. I mean, it was
Yeah.
110 plus for multiple days last summer, like a 30-day straight. It felt like, and
New normal.
yeah, and so I think that would be the intent is not just it being landscape, but actually having a couple functional if we can incorporate the drainage into it as well.
I love that. Thank you.
And then I guess I don't really know how this usually goes, but do we talk about timelines? Or do you want us to just start researching?
We'll do a homework assignment and, we'll bring you back some concepts. We'll see what we can have ready for your next CPTC as a,
Yeah, and if
An
there's any other cities in Oklahoma that have similar policy, if Edmond or Broken Arrow or
Tulsa.
Lawton, Tulsa,
Yeah.
Stillwater, anywhere, could be a small town too. Since they're already in the same environment as us, maybe if there's any in North Texas as well that may have similar, that might be helpful, and we can see what different places are doing with that, and yeah. So, okay. Any other comments, questions?
Since it's on the
Yeah,
agenda, I
repeat
do
that.
want to put my support on for the parking maximum conversation. I know we talked about that a lot, but I've always envisioned this as almost like a soft cap. Like we've got a soft cap of maximums you can't go over, and if you want to exceed those, you can, but you're going to pay a luxury fee to do so. And so that, helps us rein in just these albatross parking lots.
You
that are-
can can build up to X amount, but if you want more, you gotta
Right.
get council
Right.
approval or.
And that cap will
pay
be a
more.
reasonable amount. It's not going to be, we're not going to penalize people.
So
but-
maybe if we can find out what other cities in this region perhaps may have maximums and what those policies look like.
Yeah. And I've even seen where cities will allow you to go over the maximum if you include a certain amount of bike spaces, or you include, there's offsets and bonuses and
Charging stations, more
Absolutely,
trees. Yeah, you
absolutely,
could probably
yeah.
get really creative
Yeah,
with.
it's just a formula, and you really end up with a great product at the end of the day. And it's not to penalize anybody; it's to just put some guardrails on it, because right now it's a free for all.
Yeah.
So
So yeah,
I
I'd be
will
interested
say,
to know more about that.
when we have meetings with people and we tell them you provide what you want, they're really happy. So
I like that.
it's been a good, in my opinion,
glad to hear
it's
that.
been a good change.
Okay, well, thank you. I'll look forward to following up on that one at a later date. So if that's it, we'll go ahead and move on to our third item on the agenda, which is presentation discussion regarding the City of Norman Sidewalk Program. And
Good afternoon.
Scott Sturt's here with us.
And in all of our council submittals for capital budget consideration, sidewalks were definitely the leading category of requests, which is great because they're actually relatively affordable in the grand scheme of capital. There is a demand for sidewalk opportunities in everybody's ward, so it was really good to see.
I'm really coming today to talk about a very specific item, and I got to say, it's not exactly the news I like to bring to council. But as we started through our projects, we've been looking at doing the West Boyd Street project, adding sidewalks from Berry to Flood, actually a little past Flood. That is actually in this year's budget as one of our sidewalk projects, and we were going to complete it next year with the Phase 2. We have not done that job yet because we really can't do that while school's in session, because we will have to close that lane of the roadway. So we were going to wait till the summer to start that. And then for next year, and that's what we're showing here is the Phase 1. You can see starting there at Berry and going not quite all the way to Flood. We were basically just going to go as far as we could until we ran out of money, and we think we got a pretty good stopping point there about where we expected that. But for FY25, we were discussing the extension of this project going further and going across Flood and going just a little bit past Flood, so we had a continuous sidewalk. Well, we started doing our homework and started getting into this, and we basically ran into a complete roadblock on this project. And if you look there to your right, you can see this project has to go over Emhoff Creek and through the floodway, not the floodplain, the floodway. Basically, the cost on this project just probably doubled or tripled. We now have to have consulting because we have to have hydraulics done to prove that we're not impacting the floodplain and the floodway. We knew it was in the floodway, so it's not that we missed it. We just didn't think it was going to have this extensive of an effect, and it just really ballooned on us and got out of control in a hurry.
Would a new bridge have to span the floodway?
Well, and
endpoints?
that's why we need to be able to do the hydraulic calculations, and we need a consultant to do that. Can we do one at the same level as the road and it doesn't impact? Does it need to be raised
That's
above?
kind of what I was wondering,
And
right.
how is that constructed so it doesn't catch debris as it flows?
Absolutely.
It really we didn't expect it to be this big of an impact on the floodway as we were doing it. But as we started looking at it, we got very concerned about moving this project forward.
Yeah.
So.
And Councilmember Peacock, to that point, of course, the non-engineers in the room thought, well, just put the sidewalk on the ground, and if it's underwater, we won't walk on it that day.
That's why I was, yeah.
And then the engineers say, well, that's not as easy as it sounds, because it sounded pretty easy.
Yeah.
And let's say, 340 days a year, it would be a nice dry sidewalk and we would take full advantage. But the concept of what impact that might have to the flow of water, it was actually educational, and I'm glad we have engineers who know those things, or the accountants would have built sidewalks over there. And
Sure.
had problems down the
Your
road.
floodway then grows and grows and grows.
Yeah, and we can cause the base flood elevation to rise, and we do not want to do that. And in fact, our rules and regulations don't allow us to do that. And what we started looking at, so the floodway is about 4 foot above ground level at Emhoff Creek. So if we had to raise that bridge 2 foot above so that it's not impacting, now we're 6 to 7 foot above ground elevation, and we can't use stairs to get up to it. You
Gotta
can
be a
see
ramp, it's gotta
it
be
just
a ramp.
every piece
Yeah.
just compounded it.
Yeah, yeah.
So we wanted to come to you and offer an alternative and show you some other things that we can do. We obviously don't want to lose momentum on our sidewalk programs.
So before we move to that part, so there is an existing sidewalk on the north side of the street.
For a portion, it does not go all the way to Berry.
Right, doesn't go all the way to Berry.
It goes to, I'm sorry, is it Merrimack? Mary Wood, something like that.
Marywood.
Marywood. I know it was something. It was Mary something.
But it does run from there all the way east.
East.
To the end of Boyd Street.
And
But it does cross the creek on that side of the street already. With the
But,
old bridge, I
and
guess.
we looked at that, and our concern there is that that bridge may not currently be ADA compliant, which impact if we came in and worked on it, we'd have to make it ADA compliant. We're back to the same point. We also considered, could we just consider the sidewalk on the north side of the road and go all the way back? Unfortunately, we do not have adequate right-of-way to do that. This program doesn't have funding to purchase right-of-way. It's really hard to come back and add sidewalks in some of these corridors. We still think this is a very important project, and I'm going to come back to some options we want to look at for this particular location in the future. But our number one ranked sidewalk, and the one that we're getting the most complaints about right now, is actually to put this sidewalk in on Mimosa. Mimosa runs between Stubman and Peters, just south of Norman North High School. There are no sidewalks, and the kids are walking in the streets to get to school. And we have had repeated this is our number one sidewalk ranked project. And we did propose next year to do phase one of this for next year. Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Graham.
I was just gonna echo yes, because when I was taking kids to school, it was very busy, and I think in one of our monthly meetings I had brought up Mimosa. So.
Yeah, and in bad weather, I mean, the stormwater is right on the side of the pavement. So the kids, you're either walking across doorsteps or almost down the center line of traffic, just stay dry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we stopped and we looked at this. As I said, we were going to do phase one next in FYE '25. So what we'd like to do is take the funding for Boyd Street for this year. Let us do phase one this year. We could start that currently. We could as soon as our contract could get back on it, we could get that done. And then you could see phase one there on the left, which would get us almost all the way on the north side. And then because we already had some funding here for next year along with phase two, we could complete the rest of it with next year's budget and knock this project off. It is the number one ranked project, great one to get off our list. So that's what we're proposing to make that shift in the sidewalk programs. Just kind of in summary, so let us postpone the Boyd Street Phase 1 and Phase 2. We really do need to bring in a design firm to help us with this. We'd look at putting that back in construction in FYE '26, maybe '27. That we'd really like to see. We've been very successful getting grant funds to help us with sidewalks. We got about $2 million on the books right now. This is one we think would be really good for that. The other thing we noticed is when we were looking at the other project by the neighborhood Walmart there on 12th, the cost of pedestrian bridges are way higher than what we thought they were. That project, that bridge is going to be about $400,000. This one is not that long of a bridge, but this would give us a way that we'd be able to fund that project, get it done, get design, and have it all be for an 80-20 split of the construction. And then we could use the funding from Phase 1 this year to complete Boyd to complete Phase 1 Mimosa, and then in '25 do Phase 2 of Mimosa and wrap that project up. So we just wanted to come and bring that to council before we made those changes and get your comments or your thoughts. As I said, we really wanted to get Boyd Street at least one side done, but it's just a way more complicated project, and I need a little more effort on it.
How far east would the Boyd Street, if on the south side of the street, how far east would it go? Just to flood?
No, it would not make it all the way to Flood because we cannot get across the Emhoff Creek, which is on the west side of Flood. So,
That's the part that needs the bridge and is in the flood.
yeah,
But that's a future project still, but one that's gonna cost more. Is
right.
that what you're saying? Is it if we postpone it, we do the Mimosa Drive, that the goal would still be to try to do this at some point?
We would
It's gonna cost
absolutely,
more.
yes,
Get
we
this
would try to get, like I said, the goal to me would be to try to get federal funding if we could. If not, at least get it. It just doesn't really fit in the sidewalk programs. The sidewalk programs that we have really aren't designed to have design fees and right-of-way purchase and those items. But for us to be, and if we can't get the federal funding to bring it back as a capital project, that we would place where we would have those funds available to do
The goal would
that.
still to be have continuous sidewalks on both sides of Boyd Street from Berry Road east to campus or whatever.
That is the ultimate goal, is to get that completed.
We're not abandoning it, we're just saying it's,
Yeah,
No,
we
we're
got
just
more-
postponing it
more
until we
work to
can put
do.
the effort needed.
Scott, when we do an annual contract for flat work, and they give us $1 per square foot, $1 per linear foot, those contractors may not be the contractors who are even eligible to bid on what the final solution may be. So, it'll come back in a different program, not just part of our sidewalk program, because a little more in-depth.
Yeah.
Councilmember Grant?
So I was just curious about the future funding for Boyd. So I'm hearing grants. Is it something, like how much are we thinking total?
I'm expected to be between $500,000 and $700,000. And the 700,000 is really when I start considering putting in the design fees.
That's including like having to do a bridge and,
Yeah, we think that would include the bridge and the work to do it. We would know more after we got a design consultant on it, and they'd be able to help us with a better cost estimate. So
Because you said the right of ways as well.
the right-of-way is on the north side.
May also need to be purchased.
Yes, we would have to buy at the corner. It's the first few lots as you go west, or go from Berry going east, I'm sorry. They do not have right-of-way. They're right up against the roadway. They do not have the adequate right-of-way for us to do that. So we'd have to have time for negotiations with them and then the money to be able to buy that right-of-way.
And that's not original township, but that's still very old Norman.
It's very old Norman, and it's weird. It's just at the corner, and then it backs off again. We really don't have any, we don't know why that's that way. It's just the cards we were dealt in this
on
corridor.
the north side, the sidewalk goes, it's continuous from campus all the way, goes across the creek right there on the bridge you say may not be compliant anymore. It goes north just past Marywood Lane, along Boyd Street, and then it goes north in between two fence lines and connects to the dead end at Grover Lane. So that's kind of interesting. So we would continue working to try to get it on both sides
Yes,
eventually.
we are not, we will continue to work on this project, just fitting it in where we can find adequate funding. to be
This
able to-
project would or would not include the sidewalk on the east side of Boyd east side of Berry, going from Boyd to Grover Lane, the one block that's missing that,
We have not
Is-
put that in any
would
current
be a separate one.
project. That is a separate project that's on the sidewalk list.
Okay.
That one has
some trees and,
some trees and some grading issues and retaining walls we'll have to construct and some other issues on that one.
one of
But-
the two property owners wants it badly, so.
Well, my understanding is that both property owners are actually amenable to doing the project.
Okay.
But it's just fitting it in the program and finding it in the ranking system and making sure that we're taking care of things in a direction that we need to.
So in budget development upcoming, the opportunity maybe to split this one up into 2 fiscal years and go 24, 25, design right away. And then 25, 26, budget the construction, so it's a little more palatable. It won't consume so much of your capital
Great idea.
viability.
And in that time, we could be looking at federal grant. ACOG grant.
I'm gonna say, thinking also long run, because I think everybody wants sidewalks in their wards, and obviously we're encountering challenges. Would it be too far-fetched to think about a sidewalk maintenance bond? Or something that would consistently provide funding, especially
Okay,
for tricky spots?
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but a sidewalk, if it has sidewalk, doesn't it have to have a higher percentage to pass if it's a bond issue?
60%.
So it'd be a 60% pass if we tried to do that.
I mean, I kind of think that
How
the
big was our
feedback we're
Ridgemont
getting.
pass rating?
It's not
50.
considered a public utility under the constitutional provisions, and that's why it requires this higher threshold. When we've done them before, we've looped them in with road projects, and so we've been able to
ask for that voter approval under another constitutional.
But by itself as a standalone takes 60.
Right,
Did we get
correct.
60% of the bridge bond? What was that number, 62? What was the bridge bond pass rate?
It was in that range, that's what I'm remembering also. But I think that's why we've never done it in the past. It's been discussed in the past, but that, you know,
High bar.
and then how many bond programs
Right.
Yeah.
is the,
Juggle.
How
Are
long have
the
you
citizens
been on
ones?
staff, Scott?
I'm sorry?
How long have you been? with the city?
12 years.
12 years. I feel like they did it in the early 2000s and it did not pass and it's never been attempted again.
I think I've heard
And it- I
that story.
think it got more than
that there was a
50%.
failed, that there
Yeah.
was a failed vote
I
for a
think it got
sidewalk
more than
bond.
50%, but didn't get the 60, so.
I was just thinking in the future, especially as people, and who knows how the economy goes, but older folks, younger folks, people who aren't relying on cars as much, we also are trying to improve walkability in our city. I do think we might be at a different point in time
Yeah.
now.
I think so too. We all hear about sidewalks more than probably anything. Okay.
So, something I would like to look into moving into the future, knowing that I don't think the particular issues with Boyd are going to be unique because there's so many unique spots in Core Norman at least, but I'm sure in other parts of the city too.
How many times we cross Imhoff Creek? You know,
Yeah.
a lot.
Okay. Can we get an update on the sidewalk projects that we funded in our last budget? Or just the status of,
Well, so in the sidewalk program that we had, all those projects except for Boyd Street are complete, so they've got those 100% done. Then we had the $216,000 in projects. It was the college, I'm gonna miss them all.
Yeah.
George,
Yeah, Class
the little
Park.
section on Classen. Those have all gone out to bid. In fact, you're gonna be awarding that on the 27th, and we'll be starting those projects immediately. So that's about as much of an update as I can give you on that.
That's great. That's great.
But then we also have the $1 million basically project to do the sidewalks on Lindsay Street between 12th and 24th East. That is under design right now, and that will be an ODOT bid because we're using federal funds. So that's under design. As soon as we can get that to an ODOT bid, we'll begin that project, bring that all into ADA compliance.
to 12th and 24th?
Between 12th, Lindsay, between 12th and 24th. And that is the last section of sidewalk that was in our ADA transition update plan.
I was gonna say that,
So that will finish that out.
that mile stretch has sidewalks on both sides.
But they're not ADA compliant, they're broken, there's some missing. So to bring it to compliance,
So the section from Brandywine to 24th, though, that was widened to 5 lanes, I don't know, 10 years ago or so. So those sidewalks aren't even up to.
there's been changes in the ADA requirements in that timeframe. So we're actually going through and we've actually done a full assessment of what needs to be done, what ramps need to be done. Some of the ramps don't have the tactile warning, or they're too steep of a slope, or there's separations. We're just going through and making sure it's all ADA compliant.
Okay.
And then following that, we're also under design right now on the 10-foot wide path on 12th Avenue Northeast between Robinson and Rock Creek. So along Griffin and Sutton, and we'll get that whole section. And then the little section on the east side that's at the north end of that same stretch.
Where they
And then
stop.
also Brooks, on one side of the road or the other, and I always get it confused. I'm sorry, because I'm not looking at the picture, from Pickard to Wiley. North side from Pickard to Wiley.
Oh,
And that's another, those two projects combined are another $1 million set of projects with 80-20 matching funds. So we have a lot of sidewalk work and a lot of time and effort's gonna be going into that in the next 12 to 16 months.
any update about Brooks Street Railroad Crossing? I know we did our approaches. And that's-
So we're actually trying to complete that. We've reached out to our counterparts with BNSF. And basically, for them to be able to facilitate that crossing, they're gonna have to redo the entire road crossing. They sent us an agreement, and we've been working with legal, and we have some questions about the contract. We're working with them to try to get some contract items. We were prepared to bring that to council, but after legal review, we had to remove it from council.
Okay.
So we are trying to get that done. It'll be a cost to the city, about $60,000 for the road crossing. They're splitting the cost of that, but then we're agreeing to do some of the work on the
So the whole
for the
crossing will be
sidewalk.
redone though then?
Yeah, I guess it's because they have to change the elevations and they can't just kind of pull the rails up. I don't know. I'm not a railroad engineer. But they said they have to basically, to be able to do it, they're gonna have to take and redo that whole crossing. So that is something that we're very close on. I've reached out to my counterpart at BNSF and I need to reach out to him again. We just haven't been able to get a connection to get the contract revised.
Okay, for those that aren't familiar, that's the last or only crossing in the urban area of Norman that does not have a sidewalk on either side. It has sidewalks that approach up to it, but you have to, there's no path at all to actually cross.
And we did a project
Without
about
going in the street.
5 years ago, 6 years ago, or maybe 4, anyways, in that time frame, to go from the railroad tracks back to Classen, but we couldn't build across the railroad right away, and we've been working with them in that time frame.
That solution on Constitution is so amazing that now it's even hard to envision. How did we last this long without that?
Yeah,
Now
I
it's
know.
fully ADA accessible and dry and,
Constitution is
oh,
so
wow.
bad.
Yeah, we
That
just
was
need to get the,
life altering for a
when
lot
the
of folks.
Constitution project comes through and we get the sidewalk on the south side that
Yep.
goes across. So Constitution now has a crossing on the north side, which it didn't have one before on either side, so now it at least has that. But yeah, Brooks still doesn't have it
Yeah,
on
we,
each.
we only wish we would have gotten them to put, and we did kind of make an attempt at it, we couldn't get it done. We did try to get them to put in the road panel on the south side of Constitution, so
Yeah.
we wouldn't have to do it later. But that didn't pan out,
Okay.
so
Will they do that on the Brooks, go ahead and do both sides?
we're not even working on the south side right now. There's so many issues with trying to cross the creek there, that we have a lot of issues there. We looked at it for a long time on which side of the road to try to do the crossing on. We looked at using the OU bridge that they have there
Right.
already. It's in no way ADA compliant, so we had to basically abandon that. And so we'd have to build a whole new pedestrian bridge, and we're back to all the same situations we're talking about on Boyd Street. So,
Yeah, I think we were able to get the Callaway House to build that one on the north side, didn't we?
yes, they built that.
That project.
That was part of their, yeah,
Yeah.
because they have to do that. And so they constructed it and they brought it right up to within about 5 foot of the railroad.
Yeah, and they
Right
built the
away.
bridge across the creek there too.
Yes.
So that was nice to
Yeah.
have a private developer do it instead of us.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I think the only other one I had a question about was, oh yes, Classen, the Classen project.
on the 29th this month.
Okay, and that goes from Boyd South to 7-Eleven basically, yeah, okay. Perfect, that's, like I mentioned before, has the most notable or worn-in desire path of anywhere in Norman is right on that curve when you're coming from OU Motel to the 7-Eleven. It's
Yeah.
it's like a canyon almost of how many times people have walked through there. So I'm excited to get that project going too. Any other sidewalk questions, comments? Councilmember Grant?
I think you can slip that under sidewalk. Where are we on Gray Street and that conversion? Did another one go out and get
So that will be bid in March. So that bid will be going out here in just a couple of weeks. And then we'll get those back in a month and we'll know where we stand on that one.
And that has like some ADA upgrades too.
We will make sure that the entire corridor is ADA compliant. A lot of that is actually in very good shape. When they came through doing the water line through there, they disturbed a lot of the ramps on the north, and utilities built them back ADA compliant, which is, they have to, but they were very willing to work with us on that and worked really well, so it was a good project. But yeah, that'll be a fully ADA compliant corridor, and we will do any repairs that are necessary during that project.
And Scott, we anticipate the engineering work on a two-way Main Street will be in the upcoming budget document.
We did put that in the budget.
Awesome. Okay. Councilmember Schuler?
I just was wondering, I had identified a sidewalk gap on Boyd that is just east of Rotary Park on the north side. It's like the only sidewalk gap that we have. I know you know where I'm talking about.
I do.
With it's like, I know it's a little funky with
We've
like.
looked into it before.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, we're working on.
Like the church.
There were several council member requests for sidewalks, and we're putting those together
Okay, perfect.
as a list for council to consider.
Great.
And that's on there.
Okay.
That one has, it's funny, every sidewalk
Well, the easy ones are all done.
Yeah.
I know.
The easy was when we built it with the road. After that, it
See the
gets,
path.
but on that one, they've got their little donation right where we need to go. We'd have to go behind the parking,
They
and then we have to
park, yeah.
cross the flume. But we've looked into it before, and it's actually on the sidewalk list.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, because I'm like, it's like right there by the park,
Mm-hmm.
and there is no sidewalk that goes on the south side of Boyd there either, and then
Right.
it's like, yeah, it's a little weird.
Picture is worth 1,000
That's also
words.
on the south east side corner. There's like a pad, but sidewalk to nowhere. I think it was probably constructed when the road project was done, right? There's just like a little pad.
There was a time frame where whenever we did an intersection, that we
Yeah.
were required to put in the ramps. And they
the,
finally came back and said that doesn't make sense, and we no longer
So
have to,
yeah.
if there's not a sidewalk, we don't have to build an accommodation to the sidewalk. So, yeah, there was an era where there was a lot of that. You can see that through a lot of
I think
sections.
it's part of the
Yeah.
President Obama stimulus package, and it was like we got funding to repave like 15 streets in the city, but it required that you had to put ADA ramps on the corners even if there was no sidewalk.
Yeah, it's just such a weird.
So people would be like, "Why are the
I mean,
city
you can
doing
use it as
It's
a,
almost
a
worse to go off the
crossing
ramp into
landing
dirt.
spot, but
Pedestrian refuge area. if
it
you
is
will.
kind of.
Yeah.
I've used it.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Anything further? All right. Okay.
Thanks, sir.
And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much.